Luxury no longer means quality. Consumers weigh in on the slowdown. Finally, luxury consumers finally understand that just because you're buying a brand that was associated with luxury last century doesn't mean that they make quality garments. Finally, the consumers have caught up with what we've been saying on this channel forever. Like, geez, yes, I have been saying this for years, and this article definitely is 5 years too late. Finally, guys, finally. So let's read on. We surveyed almost 1,000 consumers about how their luxury spending habits have changed and how brands can better meet their needs amid the market slowdown. Overcoming the luxury slowdown won't be just a case of waiting the market out. Brands need to listen to consumers and adapt accordingly. The luxury industry lost some 50 million consumers in 2024. Inflation and the rising cost of living have forced some to cut back. Meanwhile, consumer confidence is also suffering, particularly in China, which has hit many brands. To understand how spending habits are changing and what brands could do better to reach luxury customers, we surveyed almost 1,000 Vogue and GQ readers in the US and the UK and Vogue Business readers globally. So imagine they've surveyed Vogue and GQ readers and Vogue Business readers. So these are already like more fashion forward readers, and even they are finally accepting that luxury doesn't mean quality. Damn. If fashion people that consume fashion news and fashion information are just realizing this, we have a long way to go before like the average everyday consumer finally understands this, to be honest. But then again, you can't really expect much from the typical Vogue or GQ reader because so many different kinds of people like read Vogue. Like there's people I know that don't care about fashion, but they still kind of read Vogue, and they have a Vogue subscription just because it's Vogue. They kind of put it on their coffee table and stuff like that. So there's like a wide range of readers when it comes to Vogue or GQ, to be honest. But let's see. They said the key takeaway from their survey is that consumers are aware of price increases and are looking for more value. Those under 35 are shopping more for luxury than those over 35, but they are shopping through alternative channels like resale or sample sales. Most concerningly for brands, sentiment towards luxury brands is relatively negative. Consumers said brands could improve their appeal by providing better value for money, more ethical practices, and improved product quality. I mean, they are late to the party. They are extremely late to the party, to be very honest with you. Very, very late, but I digress. Consumers have grown more cost conscious. The vast majority, 77% of respondents, agree that luxury fashion items cost more than they did a year ago. This has led to shifts in their shopping behavior. 37% agree that they shop less for luxury fashion than they did a year prior. And 2/3 said that they are more likely to wait for discounts or sales to purchase luxury fashion items than ever before. So we've got some interesting graphs. Luxury fashion items are more expensive than they were a year ago. So 77% agree. Wait, the 7% of people that disagree that luxury fashion items are more expensive, are they like blind or just outright stupid? Like, all you need to do to know if luxury prices have gone up is to find out what the luxury price was 2 years ago and compare that with the price that it is today. How could you disagree with that when the prices have objectively gone up? Are they just like blind? Do they live like in a cave or something? Like, what the hell? How can you disagree on something that's so objective? Like, numbers are so objective. Like, if a number has gone up, it means that luxury items are more expensive than they were. Like, how can you disagree about that? That's so dumb. Anyway, reading on. I shop less for luxury items than I did a year ago. So 31% of people still shop the same. That's fair enough. They're probably really rich and not affected by economic downturns. 37% of people shop less for luxury items than they did a year ago. And 32% are kind of just neutral on the matter. That's very interesting. Yeah, exactly. Inflation is a thing. They must be so rich they don't understand. They didn't notice that the prices went up, probably. A Chanel flap is literally $18,000. It was less than 10K 6 years ago. Yeah, exactly. She said she wears it until it comes loose. Wait, rich people do that? She didn't even know that her Rolex has a fine adjusting system. Wait, she said she wears it until it comes loose. What the hell? That's crazy. Denial is a powerful thing. Yeah, I guess some of them might just be in denial, to be honest. They might think it's inflation, and also that incomes rose with inflation, so there isn't a meaningful difference. Not my opinion. Oh yeah, they might just think that, but I think it's just, I didn't know that some consumers were that like obtuse. That's quite surprising that some luxury consumers are like objectively obtuse. But let's read on. Among those who have reduced their luxury spending, the primary reasons are that luxury items no longer offer good value to justify the price. That was said by 41%, and that they prefer to spend their money on other things. That goes and alludes to things that I've said in the past, in past streams, where I've talked about moving to hospitality, and a lot of luxury brands are investing in that because they realize that the younger generation, especially Gen Z, they are investing more in experiences than luxury goods. So they're going on holiday, they're going to luxury restaurants, they're going to cafes. So that is kind of how things have been adjusting over time. But let's read on. Why have you reduced your spending on luxury fashion items or accessories in the past year? So 41% said they no longer see good value. Another 41%, let me zoom in just so you guys can see it clearer. Another 41% said, I now prefer to spend money on other things. Oh yeah, exactly what I was alluding to. That's a big percentage. Experiences, holidays, I can no longer afford it. 32%, that's a big. Think of like how much market share the luxury industry is losing when you have a survey of quite clearly people that consume fashion information and consume these products. 33% saying they can no longer afford it. Damn. 90% saying they prefer to buy secondhand luxury items or accessories. 15% saying they prefer to buy small luxury items like beauty, fragrance, or home goods. Interesting. And then other 8%, they no longer align with my ethics and values. 2%, I prefer to rent luxury products, and none of the above. Interesting. I mean, I could never afford luxury fashion anyway, at least not in the way that people can normally consume luxury fashion. So a lot of it didn't make any difference to me because I never pay retail for starters because I can't afford retail. And with the tariffs and everything else, oh my gosh, like the prices are going to go through the roof, to be honest. Insane. Reading on, many customers who said their perception of luxury brands has declined in the past year cited quality as a concern. Finally, I've been praying to the fashion gods and they answered my fashion prayers. For every consumer to be more discerning about the quality of stuff that they buy and not spend so much money on subpar made products. Finally, my prayers have been answered. Some luxury brands have increased their prices significantly, but the quality has reduced. Luxury no longer means long-lasting quality products, said one respondent. So, you know, my mission is complete. Your mission is complete, young Padawan. Do you know what's funny? They're saying that no longer, as if that wasn't the case. That has literally been the case since the early 2000s. Obviously, it's worse now, but this has been a thing. Like the quality of luxury fashion going down, this has been happening since the early 2000s. So we are in 2025 and people are finally realizing that this is the case. Damn, it took them long enough. Reading, because of the perceived lack of value across luxury today, consumers are seeking alternatives from contemporary brands or vintage resellers. The value of goods against the price has caused my perception of luxury brands to decline. It should have declined way sooner, sis, but we're glad that you've come on board the ship. And the rise of new silent luxury brands that are really competitively priced and good quality, said one respondent. Secondhand products are, paradoxically, of better quality than the recent products of the same brand, one respondent noted. So yeah, it just seems like consumers are finally starting to realize that just because you spend a lot of money on stuff doesn't mean that it's well made, which has been the case for years and years and years. But it's glad to see them come on board. Let me just see some of these graphs because I think some of them are really interesting. How has your spending on the following categories changed over the past year? So let's see. So this graph is that spending has decreased. This is it's remained the same. And then the paler purple was increased. And then the more pale is I haven't shopped this category. So it's interesting that the biggest percentage has remained the same, which is what I would expect. But there's also like big chunks that has decreased. So if you look at the luxury and clothing apparel, 30-something% has decreased. That's huge. It was 32%, I think, when we read it. That's insane. But then you have a higher percentage of people that, you know, they're like, my spending has remained the same, which it makes sense. I think luxury consumers are the least affected by luxury downturns. Because if you're working class or if you're like struggling to make ends meet, most of your money goes towards essential things like electricity and food and travel. So you never were, buying those kind of things anyway. The kind of people that buy luxury fashion, especially consistently, tend to be people that have so much disposable income that if there's an economic downturn, they're fine. So this graph actually doesn't surprise me at all. Doesn't surprise me. Let's see how young consumers are shopping. Price increases haven't turned young consumers off luxury, quite to the opposite, in fact. The appetite for luxury among young consumers is clear. Our research shows under 35s are more likely to say their spending on luxury fashion has increased in the past year compared with over 35s. I don't know why that is. I'm going to guess, and you guys in the chat, let me know what you also think is the reason why. I think because we are in the social media, TikTok, Instagram generation, I think loads of people feel like they need to keep up with the Joneses more so than ever, which is why I think that luxury consumers, more so than older consumers, feel like they need to spend on luxury, which is hilarious because people that are my age, like Gen Z and millennials, they have way less spending power than older generations. Older generations are the generations that bought houses when it was cheap. They own properties. They have crazy retirement funds. They have massive businesses. They've been in their career for 20, 30 plus years. They're CEOs. Like, those are the people that actually have the money. So to see that younger people are more likely to buy luxury goods, that means that, people our age are not financially sound. People my age, I'm Gen Z, if you weren't aware, people my age clearly don't have their finances in check. They don't have their finances in check. And by the time you're 35, you usually have a steady income and established career. Younger people start working. But the thing is, they said under 35s. So this is everyone under the age of 35. If I was to take a guess, I would say that you peak in your career between the age of like 35 to maybe like 55. That's like the peak of financial earning of most people. Most people are going to make the most money they've ever made in their life between the ages of 35 and 55. So this says under 35 though. So these are all people that aren't really that, long in their careers, to be honest. If they said like 35 to 45, I'd understand, but under 35s, that's crazy. Jennifer says, actually, Aya, this last week has shook even the richest clients I know. Peeps I had never expected are making budgets. Oh, yeah, of course. Because this article came out before Trump's tariffs announcements. But yeah, the tariffs changed the industry in a way that no one could have expected, to be honest. But yeah, that's definitely to be expected. That's definitely to be expected. Like, I know people my age under 30 are in debt. And I'm like, how? Exactly. Isn't my generation the generation that is known for using Afterpay and Klarna to buy things that they don't need, like luxury goods and stuff? So it's very much my generation of keeping up with the Joneses and stuff like that. Or they could just be rich kids. I think someone alluded to it in the chat. I guess they're all Nepo babies. Yeah. They could just be kids of rich people also. They could be under 35s and they're just like, my dad gives me a credit card and I can just buy what I want. Using Afterpay on Uber Eats is insanity, to be fair. Because ordering food is just inherently expensive. So if you can't afford food, if you shouldn't be ordering takeaway, you should be cooking your own food. Unless obviously you're living in a place where you can't cook. But if that's not the case, you should be saving money by cooking, not going into more debt ordering on Uber Eats. But this is not a financial advice channel. I'm just saying what I would do, guys. I'm not a financial advisor. This is also true. Credit cards serve huge benefits if you know how to use it. Afterpay has zero benefits. Also, I think credit cards have benefits if you use it for things that make sense. Luxury goods don't make sense there's no reason to use credit cards to buy things that are unessential. The only argument, at least from my perspective, to use credit cards is like you can use it for cash flow things that make sense. You can use it for, like, some people use it for investments and make a higher return than their interest rate. That makes sense. But on things that you don't need, though, things that aren't necessary, like luxury goods, especially like a luxury brand, there's no world in which I can understand why you would go into debt to buy a bag, because that bag then becomes ultra expensive. If you use a credit card to buy a 5K bag and you can't pay it back, with the interest that is being incurred on that credit card, especially if you can't pay it back, you end up, by the time you can pay it back, that bag actually costs 15K, not 5K. So it's insane. It's insane. Using a credit card does not mean it's debt necessarily. It does if you don't pay it off. But most people don't pay it off. So if you look at like the typical, let's see, typical USA credit card debt, because it's not debt. Credit card usage is actually not counted as debt until you don't pay it. So if you pay it off, you don't pay any interest, so it can't be debt. It's normally when you don't pay it off that it then becomes debt. So due to statistics, this is a Forbes study. This should be good. Average credit card debt study in 2025. The Federal Reserve reveals that credit card debt stood at $18.04 trillion, which obviously is crazy, but let's look at, okay, so they have it by state. So, damn. District of Columbia, $7,750. Alaska, $7,631. Maryland, damn, that's a lot of debt. Let's look at by generation. So this should be fascinating. Let me just move so you can see it. So Generation Z or Z, 3,456 average credit card debt. Millennials, damn, 6,932. Generation X, 9,557. And then baby boomers have less. And the silent generation actually has the least credit card debt. So yeah. Also, by the way, credit card debt does not put into account like things like Klarna, Afterpay, all those things, which is a totally different thing, which is also something that is a big issue, especially with people my age. Like so many friends that I have, I love them, but their spending habits are concerning. Like I'm concerned for them. Like they buy loads of luxury goods on Klarna, and in my head I'm just thinking, are you sure you can keep up with these payments, especially because these aren't like necessary things? Why not just save up and then buy it when you can actually afford it, rather than making your financial situation so like dire where you have all these payments every month and you're like, I don't know, I just wouldn't do that personally. But once again, I'm not giving financial advice, it's just kind of what I would do. I'm just the kind of person, if I can't afford something, I just don't buy it. So yeah, let's see, going back. Across all age groups, 46% agreed that they are more interested in purchasing secondhand luxury fashion than they were a year ago. Amongst those who have increased their secondhand shopping, the primary reason cited was affordability, followed by sustainability, and then because it's rarer, more exclusive. That's cool, because I remember when more consumers started investing in the secondhand market, we saw all these platforms being built, whether it's the Real, Grailed, all those kind of things. And people, the general sentiment was like, ew, who would buy secondhand clothes? Stuff like that. So it's good to see that consumer mindsets have changed and a lot more luxury consumers are actually understanding that, oh, I can actually buy something that's more rare and isn't in production by buying secondhand, and it's more sustainable because I'm increasing the lifespan of this garment and stuff like that. It's cool to see people change their minds about that, because I found the way that people used to think about secondhand clothing quite toxic, to be very honest with you. I'm glad a lot of people have been calling out people using Klarna buying luxury fashion, and a lot of luxury fashion aren't worth it pertaining materials and styles compared to the past. Yeah, true. Someone is saying, don't make me hungry, everything is closed right now. Or everyone is saying that they use Klarna to buy food. Exactly this is the number one rule. Don't buy on credit what you can't comfortably pay off, because otherwise it just starts to become too expensive, and then it starts to build, and then it gets to a point where you can't pay it off. Obviously, the only time is if some people are in such a bad financial situation that they just have to use credit. Like some people, especially during economic downturns, have to use credit to pay their bills or eat and stuff like that. So that makes sense. But that makes sense also because they're using credit on necessities. But using credit on things that aren't necessary and you can't afford to pay it, to me, is just like an absolute no financially. I wouldn't advise anyone to do that. I know I'm on a fashion channel and we talk about clothes, but I would never promote irresponsible spending, because I don't want anyone in my audience to be like in dire straits financially. So I would never tell anyone to do that, to be honest. So yeah, just like Holly said, credit cards are lifesavers. I think once again, it depends how you use the credit card. I think the main issue is if you can't afford to pay it back. That's all. If you can afford to pay it back, loads of credit cards even have benefits. So like you can get flying miles and points Some of them don't charge you fees abroad, like transaction fees abroad. I think it just depends. So yeah, the days of being looked down upon for buying secondhand do not feel far away, to be honest. Wasn't it? That was always a thing, right? Like, oh, you're buying secondhand clothes. That was always like a thing that people used to shame people for. And I feel like nowadays, actually, it's flipped, where it's kind of praised to wear secondhand clothing because it's kind of good for the environment. It's kind of like a hippie, fashion forward thing to do. So yes, the financial roadman strikes again. He's giving holistic advice. Holly says, I got my first credit card at 28, though I think it should be a 25 plus thing. You need some adult financial experience first. I'm totally with you. I agree. I agree. But yeah, so anyway, guys, that's the story around the survey that I thought was interesting. There's more stuff there, but I just kind of wanted to comment on it because I thought it was really interesting. I'm like, oh, wow, people actually, understand that luxury doesn't automatically mean quality. We finally got there. We finally got there. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind-the-scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club, where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.